James Carter had never expected his life to change so quickly. One moment he was piloting his small cargo ship through a quiet sector of space, delivering supplies from colony to colony. The next alarm screamed. The hull shook violently and the stars outside his window blurred as his ship spun out of control. The emergency systems failed, and with a violent jolt, he crash-landed on a planet he had never heard of, Sci-Fi Prime. When the smoke cleared, James stumbled out of the wreckage, coughing, bruised, and dazed. The landscape was breathtaking. Towering crystal trees shimmered with soft light. Rivers flowed with liquid that glowed like liquid gold, and strange birds with translucent wings soared across the sky. For a moment, the danger of the crash felt distant, replaced by awe. But then he heard a voice, human. "Are you injured?" James spun around to see her. The alien princess. She stepped forward gracefully, her long hair sparkling like liquid sunlight, her skin adorned with gentle patterns that seemed to move with the light. Her eyes were large, golden, and luminous like twin suns that could see straight into his soul. James froze. He had seen many beautiful things in his life, but nothing like her. I'm fine," James stammered, trying to regain his composure. His voice sounded small and weak in the vast alien world. The Princess Lyra did not judge his hesitation. She approached calmly, placing her hand lightly on his arm to steady him. "You are not fine. Come sit. You need rest." James wanted to speak, to explain how he ended up here, but words failed him. Lyra's presence was too overwhelming. Yet, despite the shock, he felt an unexpected warmth. She wasn't just royalty. She was kind, curious, and alive in a way humans rarely saw. As they walked through the alien forests toward her palace, James noticed how different everything was. The air was scented with unfamiliar flowers. Soft lights danced across the ground, and strange animals peered curiously from behind glowing shrubs. Lyra explained some things, her voice gentle and melodic, though James understood only a fraction. Still, he felt her guidance, her patience, her care. For James, days in the palace were a mixture of wonder and confusion. The hall seemed endless, filled with soft lights and quiet hums of energy. Servants bowed in ways he didn't understand. Doors slid silently, and objects floated gently in the air as if obeying some invisible law. And yet Lyra treated him differently. She didn't expect him to follow rules perfectly. She didn't ask him to bow or speak in formal tones. She simply smiled and encouraged him to explore, to learn, to survive. Slowly, James realized he wasn't just a stranded human on a strange planet. He was a guest in her life, and she wanted him there. When he helped her feed a herd of small glowing creatures, she laughed at his clumsy attempts, and her laughter felt like music in his ears. When he asked about the glowing rivers, she explained their energy and life force, but in a way that made him feel included, not ignorant. One quiet evening, James found himself in the palace garden under a sky filled with stars unfamiliar to him. Lyra sat beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the alien constellations. "You are different," she said softly. "Humans are small in the galaxy, but you carry something strong inside. I can feel it." James wanted to ask her what she meant, but words stuck in his throat. Instead, he just looked at her, feeling a strange connection he had never felt before. A bond not of politics, not of duty, but something more personal, more human. Little did he know, this connection, this strange pull between them, would set the stage for an impossible journey. One human, one alien princess, and an accident that could change the galaxy forever. And James, for the first time in his life, felt like he had landed exactly where he was meant to be, even if he didn't yet understand why. Days passed, and James began to settle into the rhythm of palace life. Though every corner of Sci-Fi Prime was extraordinary, it was Lyra who fascinated him the most. She was not like any ruler he had read about in history books or seen in movies. She was wise beyond her years, but also playful, curious, and full of warmth. She laughed easily, even at the smallest things, and James found himself drawn to her laughter like a moth to light. Lyra, too, was intrigued by James. Humans were strange creatures to her, simple in some ways, but capable of surprising strength and courage in others. She loved listening to his stories of Earth, its oceans, its forests, its cities bustling with life. He described simple things, a sandwich, a song, a cup of coffee, and she would tilt her head, fascinated by how humans found joy in such ordinary things. The more they spent time together, the more their bond grew. James helped her explore new ideas and technologies from Earth, while she showed him the wonders of her world. Gardens that floated in midair, flowers that sang in soft melodies, and creatures that glowed softly in the dark. He stumbled often, falling over floating steps or misreading the behavior of the alien animals, but Lyra never laughed cruelly. She only smiled, sometimes helping him to his feet, sometimes guiding his hands gently, always patient, always encouraging. One afternoon, while walking through the crystal forests, James tripped over a root and fell face first into a small glowing pond. Lyra gasped, then burst into laughter, not cruel but light and musical. "Are you always so clumsy?" she teased, helping him out. James shook his head, dripping wet, but laughed too. "Maybe I'm just learning your world the hard way." "That's why I am here," Lyra replied softly, placing her hand on his shoulder. "To guide you, and maybe to learn from you too." James felt a strange warmth spread through him. He had never imagined an alien princess would care so deeply about a human like him. It was more than kindness, it was trust. And trust, he realized, was rare in any galaxy. Evenings in the palace were quieter, yet somehow more magical. Lyra would take James to her private garden, where the glowing trees whispered in the wind. They would sit side by side, speaking softly, learning about each other's worlds and dreams. James found himself telling her things he had never shared with anyone. Fears, regrets, hopes for the future. And Lyra listened without judgment, her eyes reflecting understanding and warmth. One night, as twin moons rose over Zithara's horizon, Lyra turned to him and said, "James, you are more than I expected, more than I imagined. You make me feel alive." James's heart raced. He wanted to respond, to tell her he felt the same, but words escaped him. He only nodded, feeling the weight of something powerful growing between them. A connection that went beyond friendship, beyond species. Yet beneath the laughter and shared moments, both of them knew the truth. James was human. Lyra was the heir to a royal alien throne. Their worlds were different in ways that could never be erased. Political boundaries, cultural expectations, and societal pressures all loomed over them like dark clouds. Despite that, the bond between them grew stronger each day. James found courage he didn't know he had, and Lyra found joy she had never known she could feel. Together they laughed, stumbled, learned, and dreamed, creating a private world where nothing else mattered. But life, as always, had a way of testing the unexpected. A single moment, one shared smile, one touch, one glance under the alien sky would soon change everything. James did not know it yet, but their friendship was about to become something far more complicated, something that could alter not just their lives, but the fate of the galaxy itself. And in that quiet garden, under the shimmering glow of Zithara's moons, James felt the first stirrings of something he had never felt before: hope. Hope that no matter the danger, no matter the odds, he could belong here. Life in the palace was growing easier for James, yet no one could have predicted how quickly joy could turn into chaos. Lyra and James had grown inseparable. They laughed together, trained together, and explored the palace gardens late into the night. Each moment shared brought them closer, and a quiet, unspoken connection began to weave itself between them. One evening, the palace held a small celebration to honor the harvest of Zithara's glowing fruits. The hall shimmered with floating lights, music hummed through the air, and Lyra insisted James join the festivities. Nervous but curious, he followed her through corridors of soft crystal, awed by the elegance surrounding him. He could feel her excitement radiating, and soon he found himself laughing more freely than he had in years. The celebration turned into dancing. Lyra's movements were fluid, graceful, almost hypnotic, and James stumbled at first, unsure of how to keep up. But she held his hand and guided him, spinning lightly under the glowing chandeliers. No words were spoken, but a silent understanding passed between them. In that perfect moment, the world outside the palace ceased to exist, and then it happened. A moment of closeness, a moment of weakness, and an accident neither had planned. Neither spoke of it afterward. They laughed awkwardly, brushed it off, and tried to return to normal. But life has a way of catching up with mistakes. Weeks later, the palace doctor called James to a private chamber. His heart pounded as he entered. Lyra sat calmly, her glowing eyes brighter than usual. "James," she began softly, her voice steady, "there is something you should know." The doctor explained gently. Lyra was pregnant. The words hit James like a shockwave. He felt frozen, disbelief and panic warring inside him. I didn't mean to," he stammered. He could barely form the sentence. The reality of what had happened, she was overwhelming. A human father, an alien royal heir. The implications were enormous. Lyra's reaction surprised him. She didn't panic, didn't cry, didn't show fear. Instead, she placed her hand over her belly and smiled. "James, this is wonderful. I am happy." James's chest tightened. "Happy, but this changes everything. The palace, the politics, the galaxy, everything. We can't just—" She raised a gentle hand to stop him. "I know you didn't plan this. I know you feel overwhelmed. But this child, this is life. This is hope. I am not afraid. I am joyful. You should be too." He wanted to be joyful. He wanted to feel what she felt, but fear clawed at his chest. What if their worlds rejected them? What if her parents disapproved? What if their child became a target of politics or prejudice? Lyra's eyes softened, full of trust and courage. "James," she said, "sometimes the universe gives us gifts in unexpected ways. This is our gift. Do you not want to share in this joy with me?" James looked down at his own hands, then at hers, then at the small glowing life within her. Slowly, his panic began to melt, replaced by a growing sense of awe. This was bigger than politics, bigger than fear. This was a miracle neither of them could have foreseen. And yet the consequences loomed. Whispers had already begun to spread in the palace. Staff were confused, some horrified, some curious. And James knew that beyond the palace walls, the galaxy itself would react in ways neither of them could predict. Still, in that quiet moment, Lyra's joy was a beacon. Her faith, her courage, and her love gave him the strength to face what was coming. Whatever challenges awaited, whatever dangers lurked, he would stand by her. James realized then that mistakes could be beautiful, that accidents could bring hope. And for the first time in his life, he understood that happiness was not always about control. It was about courage, trust, and love. Even in uncertainty, he would face the future. For Lyra, for their child, for the impossible journey they were about to begin together. The news spread faster than James had imagined. At first, it was only whispers in the palace corridors. Curious servants, gossiping aides, and the occasional murmuring council member. But soon the story reached the wider Zitharan leadership. A human James Carter was the father of the heir to the royal line. For many it was unthinkable. For some it was an insult. James felt the tension immediately. Servants looked at him differently, polite smiles masking doubt. Advisors whispered behind closed doors. Messages arrived from other planets in the system, some curious, some outraged. "A human cannot influence our royal lineage," one counselor barked when he visited the palace. "This is unacceptable. This child cannot inherit the throne." James wanted to run, to escape back to the stars where no one knew him. Fear clawed at him like a predator. He had never imagined the consequences of a single accident could grow so large, so fast. And yet whenever he turned to Lyra, she remained calm. Her hand rested lightly on her belly, her eyes glowing softly, filled with a quiet certainty that James couldn't yet understand. You cannot control what others think, She told him one evening in the quiet of her chambers. This child is our child. We will face them together, and you must trust me. James tried to trust her, tried to embrace her courage, but every thought spiraled with doubts. What if their child was rejected? What if the people turned against them? What if their love itself became a target? Yet Lyra refused to be afraid. She began speaking publicly, her voice steady and radiant as she addressed the palace staff, the council, even the galaxy. Our child is not a mistake, she said. Our child is a promise of hope, joy, and life. If you cannot accept that, it is not our child who is at fault. It is your heart that is too small to understand happiness. The reaction was mixed. Some were shocked, some angry, and some slowly softened. But everywhere James looked, he saw eyes filled with something unexpected. Curiosity. Maybe, just maybe, there were those willing to accept the impossible. James began to see it too. The people who doubted began to notice Lyra's joy. Her laughter, her strength, her unwavering belief in them both. These things could not be ignored. Even the most skeptical counselors began to respect the courage of the human who stood by her side, defending her against whispers and threats alike. He trained himself to meet the challenge. He learned the rules of Zitharan politics, studied their customs, and learned to speak with confidence when doubts arose. He realized that love alone was not enough. He had to protect Lyra, protect their child, and show the galaxy that humans were capable of more than it had ever imagined. One night, as the twin moons bathed the palace in silver light, Lyra and James sat together in the garden. She placed a hand on her glowing belly, and he rested his hand over hers. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. "Our child is already strong, already full of life. We can face anything together." James looked at her, awe filling his chest. Her eyes reflected the courage he longed to have, and her smile gave him hope. He realized then that the world might be against them. The galaxy might doubt them, but they had each other. That was enough. The whispers continued, the threats continued, but James had made a choice. He would stand with Lyra, and he would face whatever the universe threw at them. For the first time, he understood that being human was not just about survival, exploration, or cleverness. It was about courage in the face of impossibility, about love in the shadow of fear, about standing tall even when the stars themselves seemed to oppose you. And as they sat together hand in hand, James felt a deep certainty. The galaxy was watching, yes, but so was their child, and that child would inherit not just a kingdom, but hope, a hope that came from a human heart, fearless, unwavering, and full of love. The palace, once intimidating and formal, began to feel more like home for James. Every day brought new lessons, new surprises, and a deeper understanding of Lyra's world. The glow of the crystal gardens, the gentle hum of energy through the halls, and the soft voices of the staff no longer overwhelmed him. Instead, he found comfort in the rhythm of life on Zithara Prime, and in Lyra's constant presence beside him. Lyra's pregnancy progressed, and her joy never wavered. She moved with grace even as the life inside her grew stronger and more radiant. James watched her every day with a mixture of awe and protectiveness. Each tiny kick, each glow in her eyes reminded him that this child was more than a consequence, it was a miracle. A bond between two worlds born out of trust and love. They spent hours together in the palace gardens, teaching each other small joys of their worlds. James taught Lyra how to play simple human games, laughing as she stumbled and fell but never gave up. She taught him the secrets of Zithara, which flowers sang in moonlight, which creatures glowed softly at night, and how to move through the palace's energy fields without disturbing them. Each shared moment deepened their connection, creating a world where nothing else mattered but their trust, laughter, and growing family. One afternoon, a minor accident occurred in the floating gardens. A small energy plant toppled over, threatening to spill its glowing liquid onto the walkways. James jumped instinctively, catching it just before it fell. Lyra's eyes widened, and she rushed to his side. "You always do too much," she said with a laugh that carried warmth and relief. James shrugged, embarrassed. I can't help it. I have to protect you and our child. Lyra's hand found his, her fingers entwining with his. And I will always be here to protect you too, she whispered. Her eyes shone with quiet determination. We are a team, James. Our strength is together. As weeks passed, the palace staff began to notice the change. The once skeptical counselors, the whispering advisors, even the hesitant servants began to see the bond between James and Lyra, not just as romance, but as strength. James, the human, had grown from a stranded visitor into a guardian, a partner, a father-to-be who faced every challenge with courage. Lyra's joy and confidence inspired them all, and slowly, walls of doubt began to crumble. Yet life on Zithera Prime was never free from tension. Political messages still arrived, rumors of dissent echoed in the palace halls, and some still questioned the wisdom of allowing a human to influence the royal line. But James no longer allowed fear to dominate him. With Lyra's hand in his, he found courage he had never known. He learned to speak firmly, to defend her, and to show that love and trust could withstand even the galaxy's scrutiny. One evening, under the twin moons that bathed the palace in silver light, James and Lyra sat together in a quiet garden. The gentle hum of the palace surrounded them, and the soft glow of flowers illuminated their faces. Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, Do you feel it, James? Our child is strong, even now. They know we are together and they are happy. James closed his eyes, feeling the life growing inside her. For the first time, he understood fully what it meant to protect not just someone's life, but their hope, their future, their happiness. He felt a surge of pride and love so powerful that it left him almost breathless. This is why I stay, he whispered. For you, for them. For us, Lyra smiled, her eyes glimmering like twin suns. And that, James, is why we will face anything. Together. In that moment, the palace felt warmer, safer, brighter. The bond between human and princess, between worlds, had grown, unbreakable. Challenges still awaited them, yes, but so did love, courage, and the strength of family, and James knew with every heartbeat that he would never walk away, not now. Not ever. For love was their armor, joy was their light, and together, they were unstoppable. The peaceful days James and Lyra had cherished were beginning to change. Rumors that a human was fathering the royal heir reached the far corners of Zithera Prime and beyond. Some viewed it as a threat to tradition, others as a scandal, and a few even whispered of sabotage. Messages arrived from distant allies and enemies alike, warning the palace to remove James from Lyra's side. Fear and doubt spread like shadows, trying to invade the joy they had fought so hard to protect. James could feel it in every hallway glance, in every subtle whisper, in every tense council meeting. He wanted to run, to hide, to leave the palace for his own safety, but every time he looked at Lyra he found courage. She was unwavering, her confidence a guiding light in the darkness. Her hand rested on her belly, glowing softly, and James realized that leaving now would mean abandoning both the woman he loved and the child growing inside her. He could not do it, and so he stayed. As tensions grew, James began to train more rigorously. He studied Zitheran defense techniques, learned their martial arts, and understood their protective energies. His human body, though not naturally attuned to these powers, learned to adapt. Lyra encouraged him every step of the way, always beside him, her laughter and faith giving him strength. One day, an attempt was made on Lyra's safety. A minor explosion shook the palace gardens where she was walking, designed to scare her and intimidate the court. James reacted instantly, shielding her body with his own. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He would not allow anyone to harm her. Not now, not ever. Lyra's eyes met his, wide with trust and love. James, she said softly, you are more than I ever imagined. You are our strength. He swallowed hard, feeling a mixture of fear, relief, and pride. And you, he said, are my reason to fight. The incident spread through the palace like wildfire. Some began to fear James, but many others admired him. He was no longer just a human outsider. He was a protector, a partner, a father-to-be willing to face danger for his family. Slowly, hearts began to change. Allies who had doubted him before now saw the courage and love that radiated from both him and Lyra. At night, in the quiet of her chamber, Lyra rested her head on James's shoulder. "Do you feel it?" she whispered. "Our child is growing stronger every day. Even now, they trust us, they believe in us. We can face anything because we are together." James wrapped his arms around her, feeling the life inside her stir beneath his touch. He realized fully that being human was more than strength or courage. It was the ability to care, to love, to stand unwavering in the face of fear. That was what made him special. That was what made them unstoppable together. Weeks passed, and the palace's atmosphere slowly shifted. Doubters became believers. Skeptics became supporters. The human who had been an outsider now stood at the center of the court, respected, admired, and loved. James had not sought this honor, and he had not sought this role, but he had earned it through loyalty, bravery, and heart. Lyra's joy never faltered. Every laugh, every smile, every shared glance reminded James why he had chosen to stay. He saw the child they had created not as a problem or a mistake, but as a miracle, and he understood finally that hope could grow even in the face of opposition, that love could conquer fear, and that one human could inspire change in a galaxy that once doubted him. Under the twin moons, James held Lyra close. "We've made it this far," he whispered. "Together we can face anything." Lyra's hand rested over his heart. "And one day," she said softly, "our child will know that they were born into a world full of courage and love, because their parents never gave up." In that moment, James knew that the trials had not defeated them. They had only made them stronger. The galaxy had tested them, and together, they had triumphed. The human and the princess, united in love and purpose, were ready for whatever came next. The day arrived quietly, yet it carried a weight heavier than any battle James had ever faced. Lyra's labor began under the soft glow of the twin moons, and the palace hummed with anticipation. Every corridor was filled with whispered prayers, every staff member holding their breath, waiting for the arrival of the child who would unite worlds. James held Lyra's hand as she breathed through the pain. Her strength, her courage, and her unshakable joy radiated even in the most difficult moments. "You are amazing," he whispered, feeling tears prick his eyes. "You are so strong, Lyra." Lyra smiled faintly through her exhaustion. "We are strong. Together," she said. Her hand rested over his, and James felt a bond deeper than words could describe, a connection that spanned species, galaxies, and hearts. Hours passed, and the palace staff watched in awe as life blossomed. Finally, with a cry that seemed to echo through the crystal halls, their child arrived. Tiny, glowing, perfect, a mixture of human warmth and Zitharan light. Lyra held the child close, her golden eyes shimmering with tears of joy. James knelt beside her, his heart overflowing. "I didn't mean to," he whispered, voice breaking. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to," Lyra said gently, cutting him off with a soft laugh. "But look at this. Look at what we created: happiness, love, hope. You didn't plan it, James, but sometimes the best things come from mistakes." James reached out to touch the child's tiny hand. It was warm, alive, and perfect. In that moment, all his fears, doubts, and insecurities melted away. The council's whispers, the galaxy's doubts, the political tensions, they all seemed small compared to the life resting in Lyra's arms. Lyra leaned her head against his shoulder. "This child will grow knowing that humans and Zitharans can be brave, that love is stronger than fear, and that hope is born from trust. Our child will know the truth, that happiness can come from the most unexpected places." James swallowed hard, feeling a deep, unshakable pride. He had never imagined himself a father, let alone a father to the child of an alien princess. Yet here he was, and he understood fully what it meant to protect, to love, and to inspire. The child was not just their future, it was the symbol of everything they had fought for: courage, resilience, and heart. The palace slowly came alive with celebration. Staff bowed, counselors smiled, and even the skeptical observers found themselves touched by the miracle that had been born. The child's glow spread warmth through the halls, a light of unity and joy that could not be denied. James looked at Lyra, her face radiant despite exhaustion. "We did it," he whispered. Lyra shook her head, smiling softly. "No, James, we didn't do it alone. We are part of something bigger now. The galaxy will watch, and one day our child will show them that even a human can change the world." James pulled her close, feeling the weight of the moment, the full depth of what had happened. This was more than a child, more than love. It was hope made flesh. It was a testament that courage, heart, and unity could overcome fear, prejudice, and doubt. In that quiet room, with the twin moons shining down, James understood the full meaning of HFY. Not humans conquering, not humans dominating, but humans inspiring, loving, and standing tall in the face of impossible odds. He felt honored, proud, and alive. And as he watched Lyra cradle their child, he knew one thing for certain. No matter what challenges the galaxy would throw at them next, together, they could face anything. Love had won, hope had triumphed, and the future, glowing bright in the tiny hands of their child, was theirs to shape. James whispered softly, almost to himself, "Welcome to the universe, little one. We will protect you. We will love you. And together, we will change the stars." Lyra smiled through her tears. And for the first time in the galaxy's history, a human and an alien princess stood united, not by politics or duty, but by love, courage, and hope. And the galaxy watched in awe. A new era had begun,